Coming at you on a beautiful Monday here in Toronto. And I'll just do a little switch around with my camera to let you know my situation. This is all the stuff. I'm going to be moving to Costa Rica, which will be happening in the next hour. The movers are on their way. And the sentimental journey continues of leaving this wonderful space that has helped me for, I think, over 10 years, and saying goodbye to a space that has cradled so much of my work, so much love and relationships. And it is time. The Costa Rica move is definitely entering into a new phase. I wanted to share, though, a bit today just about some of my thoughts on leaving Canada and just the current situation here with everything that's going on with the vax passports and just the slow tiptoe of tyranny and gradual remodeling of society before our eyes, and the slippery slope that is before us. It's definitely a time to be very awake and very aware, and for us to really step up and offer a very dynamic and active force, not only of resistance on one hand, but also a dynamic creative force to start to create that parallel culture, as they call it, when people are living in a fascist kind of nation. You have to build alternative cultures that usurp that fascism, where freedom is still celebrated, honored, and protected. And I know these are strong words. People are like, what? Come on, you're living in Canada. It's not fascist. But if you really just look at the writing on the wall and the steps that are being taken right now by not only the Canadian government, but governments around the world, it truly is a techno-fascism. And if you just connect the dots, and there's so many great researchers and journalists out there who have been doing this for a very, very long time. I highly recommend the work on YouTube of his name is The Dark Journalist, or Dark Journalist. He recently did an amazing, he does these like 2 to 3 hour talks with tons of links and research. And he did a recent one just about how America has gotten to this point where he likes to call him Chairman Biden, which I like. You had Chairman Biden recently giving this speech, which was probably the most terrifying speech that an American president has ever given, where he's literally pretty much waging war on the unvaccinated, really driving the schism. And if you see the rhetoric of our current Prime Minister in Canada, Justin Trudeau, it's shambolic. You know, these leaders are speaking like we're in a war against the unvaxxed. Meanwhile, in the realm of truth, where you have so much evidence coming forward, not only of many other treatments for COVID that are super effective, like ivermectin and the whole thing that just happened with Joe Rogan, where he crushed COVID within like 3 days using ivermectin, vitamin drip therapy, and a few other things. And then you look at the study that just came out of Israel, where they had 1.5 million people in this study, and they discovered that those who obtain natural immunity by having COVID are 13 times more protected than those with the vaccine. So there's a lot of, and you know, that just brings up an interesting point then. If you're 13 times more vaxxed than the actual people who've got the jab because you've had COVID and you've been through it as myself, why do you need a vaccine passport? You should be just honored as being immune, right? If we lived in a rational world, right? If we lived in a world where science actually made sense, right? But of course, 2 + 2 = 5, and we are living in that 1994 vision that Orwell is putting forth. And we're in a very interesting moment right now, where the contrast between truth and the propagations and propaganda through the media and our politicians are so glaring that it's become absurd. It really has become absurd. And you need to let yourself laugh at that. One of the great ways to usurp tyranny is to ridicule and make fun of these leaders who are on this like overly serious, hell-bent kind of domination agenda, where they want to control all facets of society. And, you know, just to zero in on this egregious vaccine passport, which we all have to stand up to, and usurp and meddle with in all the amazing ways that we can as creative human beings, whether it's class action, lawsuit, protest, businesses coming together, non-compliance. There's so many things that we can do that are actually fun, engaging, inspiring, and lead to great roads of empowerment, where we can embody courage and be brave and be civilly disobedient. As Gandhi said, when there are laws that are put out that go against morality, that go against humanity, it's our duty as true citizens and denizens of this beautiful world to disobey them. And we are definitely dealing with seeing the emergence of the collective sociopathy, I would even say psychopathy, of the elite class of political leaders on this planet, who, if you haven't noticed, they've been so corrupted and they act so crazy in this constant war, patriarchy, colonization, devastation of the environment. They really have lost the plot. And this is not an us versus them, in a sense that this collective insanity is very deeply entrenched in our species, and it's up to all of us to do our part in healing the fragmented psyche of our collective consciousness. And that's why it's so amazing to see the rise of spirituality, wellness, shamanism especially. We need the shamanic paradigm right now to be really expanded and elaborated, because a lot of these indigenous peoples, the wisdom keepers, the traditional shamans who worked with plant medicines and all kinds of other natural medicines. I mean, shamanism is really the medicine, the spirituality that just blossomed from nature herself, from the wisdom of the earth. It connects you to the forces of the earth, the elements. This is what we need right now to repair the great wound that has caused all this insanity, which is our severance from connection to the wisdom of nature and the wisdom of Mama Gaia. And that's why I myself am making this move down to Costa Rica, and just so many people are moving outside of cities into all the open spaces of land that there are everywhere, and coming together in communities again, remembering that we always used to live in villages. Cities are a very just like new recent thing. Hopefully cities themselves can transform as well, but I know there's a huge movement of people just wanting to get back to land and live more bridal to the earth, because the earth is teaching us how to really live, how to be in simplicity, how to follow her ecological laws. So when you're living closer to her on land, you have access to the great teacher of humanity. So a lot of people are nobly making that, and that's part of the creation of the new culture. Instead of just fighting and resisting and protesting the old one, which can be so emotionally draining and actually on certain levels not effective, this is going to be a really great sea change that's happening now, a watershed moment in our humanity, as we're realizing this and we look at our leaders and we're just like, dude, you've lost the plot. Like, it's kind of feeling like, we're in a room with a very crazy manic person and we're just trying to give them space, and they're just like vomiting all of their sickness now out into the open. You can see it all over the media, the way the media is just like distorting truth just so clearly right now. With, Joe Rogan was, again, another watershed moment. I wrote a post on Facebook about this, because Joe Rogan used ivermectin successfully along with all these other integrative therapies, and the media turned around and started smearing him, saying he was using horse dewormer. Rolling Stone magazine even ran a completely false story about people in Alabama overdosing on horse dewormer. You can't make this stuff up, folks. It's like they are trying so hard to create this unnatural tyranny and cage humanity in it, and they don't realize how awakened we are, how powerful Gaia is now in the prophecy of her awakening, and how it's just doomed to fail. So that's where the absurdity comes in, because we're just seeing all the holes in it, all the cracks. You look at France and how the French are pushing back against the vaccine passports, which I think had an amazing effect on Britain, had this gulp moment, still the monarchy there, and we, the colony, where they've scrapped the vaccine passports, because I think they're like, shit, like, this tyranny thing ain't going to work so well actually anymore. It's not like a couple hundred years ago when we're all in a feudal system living off the land as serfs. I mean, in a way we are, but now we've had all these huge, absolute amazing Aquarian Age upgrades since the 1960s, and people are just very awake and very aware and ready to really start building the golden age of universal truth, where we return to nature, We have sciences that are based on spiritual truth. And these are the things that are already starting to emerge, like the first new grasses of this incredible new era. And we've got to keep focused on that too, because you can get really grinded right now by the cynicism if you're in the city and you're seeing all the divisions that they're trying to play upon us and all the negative news, and God fucking knows what they're zipping through all these cell phone 5G towers and broadcasting. I mean, I've definitely felt in the last month and a half being in Canada, my health took a really big hit. So, I feel that that's a lot of the tensions in the atmosphere here. So we really got to level up, level up your health, realize that it's all connected. And right now they are just creating like all this astral pollution. They're just sending all these really negative thought forms out through the media, trying to really provoke people into these very primal survivalistic urges in the root chakra. You got to keep that energy climbing up, get all the chakras connected, be in your full empowerment, and just know this is going to pass, but we do have a creative participation in its transmutation. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling these days. And on a lighter note, it's been such a joy to live in Canada here for the last month and a half. I'm going to have more reflections on that in the coming days. I'm leaving actually the end of this week back to Costa, but it's been really sweet to see actually how many of my soul fam here, my really close friends and dear ones, they've all upgraded incredibly here. They've gotten stronger, they've met the challenges, they've really seen the context of what's before us and how it is really a time to walk our walk now and to no longer just see spirituality, for example, as something that's just for our own self-growth. Spirituality is the ancient technology of cultivating the most excellent aspects of our humanity. So these are things that are supposed to be developed and then be in service to enlightening the world. And I'm seeing that increasingly. People are moving back to nature, or even just making sure they're getting a lot more nature time. Mother Earth is the great captivator. She's trying to really embrace us and bring us back to her paradise of Earth. And I'm excited just to see what's going to happen in Canada in that sense, because I think there is going to be this profound countercultural movement that's already seeding, and I think there's going to be some really exciting times ahead. Still some very trying times ahead. This kind of beast of psychopathy is thrashing about in its death throes, and you got to be careful. There's a lot of chaotic energies just being unleashed in that death spiral, but we have the golden light and life of our soul power designed by Gaia herself, the goddess, and it is our destiny to overcome this and to enjoy the fruits of that and all the skills and amazing strength that we're going to learn by overcoming this great tyranny. You just look at that gusto that is the true noble spirit of America, aside from lots of shadow sides of America, which they're going through right now, especially as they enter their Pluto return, which I think happens at the end of this year or next year. But truly, America overcame the British Empire, just like India did under Gandhi, and you can see the amount of power and confidence that gives a peoples when they overcome these great tyrannies. So we can do it. We are going to do it. Don't give up hope. You are needed. You are worthy of this. And take lots of time and rest and repair too. This is not a battle where we're forcing ourselves all the time and overblowing our masculinity. We need the feminine there too as well to nurture and make this a revolution of love. And we got this. I can feel it. We got this big time. Let wisdom have your tongue. Let Mother Earth into your life. Devote yourself to Mother Nature. She's the one who's going to really, really lead us into the creation of these cultures of enlightenment. So I'm going to peace out for now. Hope you have a glorious day. Cultivate your virtue. Sending you love wherever you are.